Today I was going to talk about the Bering Strait because it's such a mystery with our map how the Bering Strait exists. So the way I see it is it's definitely like the Polynesian Islands. They're hiding some information and skewing it on this globe. So everyone always says that there is, it can be seen from Alaska to Russia, okay? And from Russia to Alaska. So, first of all, let's look at these two islands. See the two islands? They're separated. Both of them actually have the same name. One of them's called Big Diomede Island, and the other one is Little Diomede Island. Okay. It's interesting that Little Diomede was sitting at Saturday at 4 a.m. when I did this. Okay. I went and looked it all up on time and date, looked up the two different islands and what their times were at that time. Okay. So we've got Saturday 4 a.m. and we have Sunday at midnight on the Big Island. So that actually is about a 20-hour difference. Okay, it's kind of crazy since they both have the same name, don't you think? Not to mention that because of the times that they actually say they are, so let's just forget the days for a minute, okay? So Little Diomede is going to light up with daylight in about an hour and a half from the time that I took this reading. Okay? And Big Diomede won't light up with daylight for about 5.5 hours from the time I took this reading. Okay? Don't we find that a little interesting considering they're only 2.42 miles apart? So to kind of sum it up about the Bering Straits, well, it's one more lie, just like the Polynesian Islands. There's two sets of these things on opposite sides, and they're just calling them the same thing. So yeah, we should definitely also look into some flights. How long do flights take from Little Diomede to Big Diomede Island, or shipping tracks? So I'll look into that next time. This time I just wanted to point out about the time. We can also look at the days. 20 hours difference between these two very small islands. They're only about 3 miles apart. Okay. And the fact that daylight hits one and it doesn't hit the other one for about 4 hours. So that's about all I have. Have a good day.
Above the world.
Hello and thank you. I'm going to play this video about the Diomedes. Hey Lev, thanks for coming in. I'm going to go ahead and play this video. Okay, so today let's talk about the Diomede Islands again. Clearly in a single group, they are separated by the international dateline, which also marks the international border between Russia and the United States. Big Diomede is owned by Russia. Little Diomede is owned by the United States. Additionally, Big Diomede is 23 hours ahead of Little Diomede owing to the international dateline that passes between them. Because of this, they're sometimes referred to as Tomorrow Island and Yesterday Isle. Both islands are flat-topped, steep-sided, and very isolated by its location, by rough seas, and by the persistent fog that shrouds the island during the warmer months. During the freezing winter, sometimes moving chunks of ice clog in the open waters, forming an ice bridge connecting the two islands. At these times, one could practically walk between the United States and Russia. Of course, this is only in theory. Crossing the Bering Strait is not legally permitted. So, the islands were originally inhabited by the Yupik Eskimos as long as 3,000 years ago. The first European to reach the island was a Russian explorer named Semyon Dzhanyov. Sorry about the pronunciation. In 1648. 80 years later, it was rediscovered by the Danish navigator Vitus Bering on August 16, 1728. The day on which the Russian Orthodox Church celebrates the memory of the martyr Saint Diomede. When the United States purchased Alaska from Russia in 1867, it included Little Diomede. The new boundary was drawn between the two Diomede Islands, and Big Diomede was left to Russia. So, Little Diomede developed into a community of about 75 individuals, with a church and a school. Big Diomede became a Russian military base. After World War II, the native population was driven off the island to avoid any contacts across the border, and any Little Diomede inhabitants who strayed across the waters too close to Big Diomede were taken captive by Russians. Today it has no permanent populations, but it's the site of a Russian weather station and a base of a Russian border guard troops. Little Diomede Eskimos live a pretty simple life. They harvest their fish and crab, hunting whales, walruses, seals, and polar bears. Most supplies come from an annual barge delivery from the mainland, and it comes from places like Walmart. A few residents work for the local government or school. There have been some commercial fishing and mining on the island, but both industries are in a great decline. Big Diomede is the easternmost point of Russia in the Bering Strait. While it has no permanent population, it is, of course, host to the weather station and military installation. Little Diomede is the westernmost part of Alaska. They say the two islands are the only place in the world, besides Antarctica, where you can see land across the international dateline, and theoretically, the easiest place in the world to cross between Asia and North America. Getting legally in or out, either from the east or west, is really not that easy. There are no official border stations in either country. Almost everyone needs a visa for Russia. On top of that, they need a special permit for the Chukotka region. And then you'll need another permit for the area that's used by military. So what I did is I searched and searched and searched for ways to travel between these two islands. I have not been able to find any way to actually go between the two islands. Wiki Voyage has very little information about Big Diomede Island, other than it being having a weather station and a military base that's not currently in use. So the secrecy around these two islands, it kind of makes you wonder what's the big secret. So the secret is they're not what they say they are. What we're talking about is two opposite sides of the world, and there very well may be two little islands out there, but I don't think that that's how you can just walk across or swim across and get to Russia. So I looked for flights. I couldn't find any flights that went from Alaska to either of these islands. There's a helicopter that'll take you out to Little Diomede during certain months of the year. After that, you really can't get out there. There are no travels between Little Diomede and Big Diomede. So I went and looked up other flights. I searched for any flights from Alaska to Russia. Any at all. It looked at 400 different, available flights, and there were none. There's no flights that go from Alaska to Russia. Then I decided to try looking from Canada to Russia. So from Toronto, Canada to Russia, I found one that would take you 28 hours and 40 minutes, and it costs around $1,200 for a round-trip ticket. I also found one from Fairbanks, Alaska to Auckland, New Zealand that takes 27 hours and 55 minutes, and it costs between $1,400 and $1,700 for a round-trip ticket. There's no flights from Nome, Alaska to Turkey. So after looking at all this, then I decided to look up anything that occurred through time where people, made it between the two islands. So I only found one instance. Supposedly, a woman named Lynn Cox swam between the two islands back in 1987. So I looked into any footage of this feat. I could not find any. The best I could find was her wading in some water, and they were filming her wading in some water, but they did not show the actual swim from Little Diomede to Big Diomede. So I'll keep searching for that footage, but I could not find it. So I decided to look into this woman, and figure out a little bit about her. So apparently in 1987 she swam the Bering Strait, the only person ever allowed to do so. Mind you, they talk about how treacherous these waters are up there, and that's why no one can even take a boat between the two islands. But this woman swam it. So that, to me, sounds kind of amazing. So I decided to look her up, and apparently she is a professional swimmer, or was. I think she's in her 60s now. And supposedly she swam the Antarctica waters. Okay? So these waters run between 0 and -10 degrees Celsius. And the Antarctica waters are said to be quite treacherous with icebergs and ice chunks, and boats have a hard time navigating and getting down there, but she swam them. Yeah, she swam them. So she submerged herself in those freezing waters, swam for over a mile, and stayed in that water for over 45 minutes. Sounds pretty amazing to me. And then she wrote books about her different swims. So she swam the Bering Strait in Antarctica, and she swam in Lake Titicaca and several other locations that are, famous names to us. So as I'm reading this, I'm kind of thinking in my mind that this sounds like a concocted story, someone to swim in such treacherous waters across the Bering Strait, even though they say boats can't really get there, the fog's too thick, the ice is too thick. There's all these reasons that people cannot cross the Bering Strait. Not to mention it's illegal. But she was allowed. And then I found the story about Antarctica, and that one seemed quite fantasy to me. It's my opinion that she submerged herself in such freezing cold waters, swam for almost an hour and over a mile, and did not get hypothermia. But yet, when you look up the waters of Antarctica, it tells you how cold they are, how treacherous they are, and that one would probably get hypothermia within the first 2 minutes of being submerged in these waters. So, I think I'll just conclude it with that. This is all the information I could find out about the Diomedes. Everything else is shrouded, and it's very difficult to find any information at all about these things, these two islands. So after reading more and more and looking into the woman that supposedly swam it, I'm going to stick with my original conclusion that maybe there are two islands out there, but this is not the, this Bering Strait is not what they say it is. We can refer back to my original video where they're, different days. And even when we decided to ignore the different days and look at when would the sun come up on these two islands, we found that the sun would come up about 5.5 hours difference. So 5.5 hours difference on a sunrise on two islands that are 3 miles apart. So if you guys have any information about these Diomedes, I would love to hear it. I've spent quite a bit of time looking into these, and I'm telling you, there's just not a lot of information to be found. Not to mention that any flights that are even close to those areas are, taking over a day and costing thousands to get there. So I'm going to wrap it up, and thank you for listening. I hope it was educational, and let me know if you find out anything different. Have a good day.
Hello everyone. If you have been following our research, you will see how the decodings of sacred geometries, mandalas, scriptures, the Nazca lines, geoglyphs, petroglyphs, hieroglyphs, the Book of Enoch, various cultures and belief systems, research of real-world data, those halos in the sky, earthquake data, the mimic map, and much, much more, decoded into a technological and mechanical realm, a construct of vast magnitude and magnificence, described and depicted everywhere in our history, the same story of the underworld, the heavens and their workings, repeated over and over no matter where you look. A history and knowledge we seem to have forgot. Pieces of a jigsaw that slot together into one amazing construct and conclusion. There is a creator. In our previous video, we showed how the sun's 24-hour path works within this model. After looking back in history to see how the sun's return path is depicted, we arrive at the Egyptian depictions of the 12 gates, the sun's return path in the underworld. Today, One Conscience is going to take you on that amazing journey, which we will break down further after the presentation.
Okay, so today we're going to look at the book of Ament, the summary of the book of what is in the underworld. So what this book is it is a journey of the sun's path as it takes it through the underworld from the western gates back to the eastern gates to rise again. So let's begin. I want to say from the start that if I mispronounce any words, I apologize. I'm not fluent in Egyptian at all, and any corrections are welcome. The beginning of the horn of Ament, which is the uttermost point of the deepest darkness. The first hour. This god entereth into the earth through the hall of the horizon of Ament. There are 120 true to the journey over this hall before man arriveth at the gods of Tuat. The name of the first field is Netra. He alloweth fields to the gods who are in his following, and he beginneth to send forth words to and to work out the plans of the divine beings of the Tuat in respect to this field. Ushimehatu Heftira is the name of the first hour of the night which guideth this great god through the hall. The second hour. This great god afterwards taketh up his position in your nest, which is 309 true in length and 120 true in width. The name of the gods who are in this field is Beutuati. Whosoever shall know their names shall have his existence with them, and unto him shall this great god allot in fields the place wherein they are in the field of Uranus. He shall gods who stand up. He shall travel on in the following of this great god. He shall enter into the earth. He shall force a way through the Tuat. He shall cleave a passage through the tresses of the gods with flowing hair. He shall travel on by the Amma after the emptying of the lands. He shall eat bread cakes in the boat of earth, and there shall be given unto him the forepart of the Tatuba. She sat Meketnebs is the name of this hour of the night, which guideth this great god through the field. The third hour. This great god afterwards taketh up his position in the fields of the Peru gods, the fighters. And this great god paddleth his way over the stream of Osiris in sailing up this field, which is 309 a true long and 120 a true wide. This great god uttereth words to those who are in the following of Osiris to the city, and he alloteth them estates which are situated in this field. Beu Shiteu, or hidden souls, is the name of the gods who are in this field, and whoever knoweth their names upon earth shall be able to approach the place where Osiris is, and there shall be given unto him water for his field. Netnibu Aheperua Atu is the name of this field. Whosoever shall know these hidden similitudes of the hidden souls in the correct form wherein they are depicted in Ament of the Tuat, now the beginning of such representation should be from Amentent. These figures, I say, shall act as magical protectors to that man upon earth and in Netterhurt, regularly and unfailingly. Whosoever knoweth these, when he is making his journey past them, shall escape from their roarings, and he shall not fall down into their furnaces. Whoever knoweth this, when he is keeping ward over his seat or place, his bread cake shall be with Ra. And whosoever knoweth this, being soul and spirit, shall have the mastery over his legs, and shall never enter into the place of destruction, but he shall come forth with his attributes, and shall snuff the air for his hour. Then Tent Beu is the name of the hour of the night which guideth this great god. The fourth hour. The majesty of this great god, having been towed along afterwards, taketh up his position in the secret circle of Amentent, and he performeth the affairs of the gods of the Tuat, who are therein by means of his voice, but he seeth them not. Ankh Uparu is the name of the gate of this circle. Ament Setha is the name of the circle. Whosoever knoweth this representation of hidden roads of Restatet, and the holy paths of the Emahet, and the secret doors which are in the land of Seeker. The god who is upon his sand shall be in the condition of him that eateth the bread cakes, which are made for the mouth of the living gods in the temple of Tem. Whosoever knoweth this shall be in the condition of him that is Mat on the ways, and he shall journey over the roads of Risatha, and he shall see the representations of the Amahat. Yurtem Sik Muset is the name of the hour of the night which guideth this great god. The fifth hour. This great god is towed along over the ways of Mat, of the Tuat, through the upper half of this secret circle of the god Seeker, who is upon his sand, and he neither look upon nor gazeth at the secret figure of the earth which is containeth the flesh of this god. The gods who are in the train of this god hear the words of Ra, who crieth unto them from where this god is. Aha Neteru is the name of the door of this city. Ament is the name of the circle of this god, and in it are the secret paths of Amentent, and the doors of the hidden palace, and the holy palace of the land Seeker, with his flesh, and his members, and his body, in the divine form which they had at first. Beu Amu Tuat is the name of the gods who are in this circle. Their forms Aru, who are in their hour, and their secret shapes Heperu, neither know nor look upon nor see this image or similitude of seeker or the hawk himself. Whosoever shall make these representations according to the image which is in the writing of the hidden places of Tuat at the south of the hidden palace, and whosoever shall know them shall be at peace, and his soul shall unite itself with the offerings of Seker. The goddess Hemet shall not hack his body into pieces. He shall go on his way towards her in peace. Whosoever shall make offerings to those gods upon earth, these offerings, I shall say, act as magic protectors to that man upon earth, and in the netter hurt regularly and unfailingly. Samharabis is the name of the hour of the night which guideth this great god through the field. The sixth hour. The majesty of this great god taketh up his position in the stream of Nebmut Tuatu, the lord of the waters of the god of the Tuat. And he sendeth forth words to the gods who are therein, and he commandeth that they have the mastery over their divine offerings in this city. He maketh his way through this field, being provided with his boat, and he setteth apart by his words the estates which are to produce their offerings in the city. And he giveth them water for their lakes, and he travelleth through the Tuat every day. Setmetu is the name of the door of this city. The secret roads of Ament, and the manner wherein this great god is being rowed along over the water, therein in his boat to perform the plans of the gods of the Tuat. The gathering together of them by their names and the manifestation of their shapes and their secret hours, such are the things of which the secret representations of the Tuat is not known to men and women. Whosoever shall make a copy of this image in writing according to the representation of the same which is in the hidden things of Tuat at the south of the hidden palace, and whosoever shall know them shall be in the condition of one who awardeth offerings in abundance in the Tuat, and he shall be united to the offerings of the gods who are in the following of Osiris, and his parents shall make the offerings which are obligatory on earth. The majesty of this great god sendeth forth words, and he give divine offerings to the gods of the Tuat, and he standeth up by them, and they see him, and they have dominion over their fields, and over the gifts made to them, and they effect their transformations by reason of the words which this great god hath spoke to them. Mechet Nibtu Atiuo is the name of this field, which is the road of the boat of Ra. Mespirit Taramat is the name of the hour of the night which guideth this great god through the country. Next is the seventh hour. The majesty of this great god taketh up his position in the secret place of Osiris, and the majesty of this great god sendeth forth words into the god who dwell therein. This god maketh himself other forms for this hidden place in order to drive out his path, the serpent fiend, Apep, by means of the word of the power of Isis and the words of power of Semsu. Ruti Asar is the name of the gate of this city through which this god passeth. Tefet Shita is the name of this city, This great God maketh his way over the road of Ament in the holy boat, and he passes in it over the road which is without water, without being towed along. He maketh his way by means of the words of the power of Isis, and by means of the words of the power of Samsu. And the utterances of this great God himself act as magical protectors, and perform the slaughters of Epep in the Tuat, in the circle, in his windings in the sky. Whosoever shall make a copy according to the similitudes which are in writing at the northern side of the hidden palace in the Tuat, they shall act as magical protectors for him that maketh them in heaven and in earth. And whosoever knoweth them shall be a soul of souls with Ra. And whosoever shall make the words of power of Isis and the words of power of Samsu shall make to be driven back the Apep of Ra and Amentent. Whosoever do this in the hidden palace of Tuat, and whosoever shall do this upon earth, the result is the same. Whosoever knoweth this shall be in the boat of Ra, both in heaven and upon earth. But he that hath no knowledge of this representation shall not know how to drive back Nihahara, or stinking face. Now the ridge of earth of Nihahara in Tuat is 450 cubits in length, and he filleth it with the undulations of his body. The regions which belong to him are made for him, and the great God doth not make his way over him when he maketh him to turn aside out of the way for him. From this secret place of Osiris, when this God maketh his way through the city in the form of the serpent Mehen. Whosoever shall know this upon earth, the serpent Nihahara shall not drink his water, and the soul of him that knoweth it shall not be evilly entreated by the gods who are in this circle. And whosoever knoweth it, the crocodile, Abshua, shall not devour his soul. Hesef ha-hes Nihahara is the name of the hour of the night which guideth this great God through the circle. The 8th hour. When the majesty of this great God hath taken up his position in the secret circles of those who are in their sand, he sendeth forth words to them from out of his boat, and the gods tow along him that is in the holy embrace of the serpent Mehen. Aha-Nertif is the name of the gate of this city. Tibet Netaruset is the name of the city. As for the secret circle of Amentent, this great God maketh his way over it in his boat, by means of towing the gods who are in the Tuat. Whosoever shall make a copy of these things according to the similitude which is in writing on the north wall of the hidden palace of Tuat, and whosoever shall know them by their names, shall be in the condition of one who is fully provided with swathings on the earth, and he shall never be repulsed at the secret gates, and he shall have an abundance of offerings in the great funeral hall regularly and unfailingly for millions of years. Nebtusha is the name of the hour of the night which guideth this great God. The 9th hour. When the majesty of this great God hath taken up his position in the circle, he sendeth forth words from his boat to the gods who dwell therein, and the sailors join the boat of this great god in the city. Sakeb is the name of the gate of this city through which the great god passeth to take up his position on the stream which is in the city. Asaru is the name of the city which the secret circle of Ament, wherein take up their positions in the Tuat, this great god and his sailors. Whosoever maketh a copy these things in their names according to the similitude which are in writing on the east wall of the hidden palace of the Tuat, and whosoever knoweth their names upon earth, and knoweth their habitation in Ament, shall rest in his habitation in the Tuat, and he shall stand among the lords of the provisions of the god, and his voice shall be Mat before the Chetcha beings on the day of the reckoning of Pharaoh. And these things shall act as magical protectors to him that knoweth them upon earth. Machnebs is the name of the hour of the night which guideth this great god in the circle. The 10th hour. The majesty of this great god taketh up his position in the circle, and he sendeth forth words to the gods who are in it. Heperu Mesaru is the name of the gate of this city through which this god passeth. Mech Keetabu is the name of the city. This is the secret circle of Ament, whereto Hepra joineth himself before Ra, and the gods and the spirits, and the dead cry out from it over the secret representations of Akert. Whosoever shall make a copy of these representations according to the figures which are depicted on the east wall of Ament, and whosoever knoweth them by their names shall journey around about in the Tuat, and shall travel through it. And he shall not be driven back, and he shall flourish with Ra. Tenteneth Swahakabu is the name of the hour of the night which guideth this great god through the secret ways of this city. The 11th hour. The majesty of this great god taketh up his position in the circle, and he sendeth forth words unto the gods who are therein. Sekhentuatiu is the name of the gate of this city through which the great god passeth. Ringkurt Apthat is the name of the city. This is the secret circle of the Tuat into which the great god passeth on his way. And he come forth at the eastern mountain of the sky, the eater of eternity. The form thereof is in the presence of the serpent Petra, which dwelleth in this city, and they, the gods, place themselves in the train of Ra, when the birth of Heper upon the earth is just about to take place. Whosoever shall make a copy of these representations according to the figures which are depicted on the east wall of the palace of Ament, in the hidden places of the Tuat, and whosoever knoweth them shall be in the position of him that divideth his offering, and of him who is spirit, who is suitably equipped to travel both in heaven and upon earth regularly and unceasingly. Sebit Nab Ahesephuemert is the name of the hour of the night which guideth this great god in the circle. In the 12th hour. The majesty of this great god taketh up his position in the circle at the limits of the thick darkness. And this great god is born under the form of Hepra, In this circle, the gods Nu and Amu and He and Heet are in this circle at the birth of this great god, when he maketh his appearance from the Tuat, and taketh up his place in the Matet boat, and riseth from between the thighs of the goddess Nut. The Nen Netteru is the name of the gate of this city. Heperkekuhemesti is the name of the city. This is the circle of the Tuat, wherein the great god is born, when he maketh his appearance in the Nu, and taketh up his place in the body of Nut. Whosoever shall make a copy of these representations, according to the figures which are depicted on the east wall of the palace of Ament of the Tuat, they shall be magical protectors to him that knoweth them upon earth, both in heaven and on earth. At this point the light beginneth to come, and it is the end of the thick darkness which Ra travelleth through in Amentent, and of the secret matters which this great god performed therein. He who hath knowledge of the whole or part of the secret representations of the Tuat shall be condemned to destruction. Whosoever make a copy of these representations, according to this copy of what is in Ament and Tuat, cannot be looked at or seen. And whosoever shall know these secret images shall be in the condition of spirit who is equipped for journeying, and shall come forth from, and shall descend into the Tuat, and shall hold converse with the men and women who live there regularly and unfailingly millions of times. The end.
Okay, the sun's return path home to the east. Let's break that down a bit more. I'll take you over to the Nazca lines. So the sun arrives at the Tumi in the far west, the Tumi being the ceremonial knife which switches off the signal. Basically it's a kill switch. If you remember the overlays, the Tumi, the ceremonial knife. A nice image of it there. So this is a process that's handling the shutdown of the sun projector in the west, basically, and following its connections here. You'll see what it's connected to, mechanisms, cogs. Take a good look, people. This is the mechanisms in the underworld which would handle the shutting down of the sun when it arrives in the west. And this would be here, the sun isolator. I would call this a geoglyph. Break the signal, kill the projection, isolate it, then all the other processes follow. And there's the solar clock, the timing, so you know it's timed event. Sun's arrived in the west, shut it down. This is what you're really looking at. How the technology works and controls and manages the sun. So we have any evidence in the real world of these kind of events? Yes. This is the signal detected on the mimic map. You can see on here. I've started using overlays with our map in the background so you can make out the maps a bit larger than they show. And you can see these amazing signals going around. Now I've added the chakras and some Nazca line overlays to this, so you can get an idea what's going on. If you watch it carefully, you will see it looping round, going to various places. Now remember, we're looking at the 12 gates, so the sun's return path involves going through 12 different gates. And this is the return path, looping over and over, backwards, forwards, popping in and out of everywhere. It doesn't make a lot of sense until you overlay the chakras and the Nazca lines, and then you can start seeing where it's really going and what's going on. So the mimic signal we've seen, which was the winter equinox in 2016, that's where the signal came from. This is one of the sun's return paths in the underworld. It returns back to the east. If you watch this carefully, it'll go through its system of various locations in its cleaning cycles that it's obviously involved in. It'll arrive back over in the east eventually, and if you watch the bottom of the screen carefully, you'll see all the signaling to tell the rest of the system sun's arrived back in the east, reset the system, shut it down. So if you watch carefully at the bottom, there we go. Signals, reset the system, sun's arrived, start again. So then you've got the sunrise in the east, starting over again. So that's the sun's return path in the underworld. Amazing stuff. And you can see how the grid in the background is manipulating that signal. The white dots being the angels in the underworld, they clearly are playing a part in manipulating and controlling this signal. So that's information from the mimic map, Nazca line overlays, which you watch, like I said, watch where it's going. You'll see it going to certain areas. When you overlay the Nazca lines that over this on the grid, you can see where it's going into one place and coming out of another. Amazing stuff. Okay, for this next part we're now going to break down what's going on in this scene. The middle register, we're going to have a quick look at that, and we're going to show you how that relates to the to me in the west. If you notice these characters here, the arms are missing, in other words disconnected. It's been switched off, shut down. The sun's reached the west, shut it down. So there, right there, that's an off switch, disconnected. Of course, with this kind of process comes waste. There's waste to manage and dispose of, so there's some waste in that depiction. And the other components of the projection system is here. You've obviously gone through a cleaning cycle, no projection. That's pretty straightforward to look at that image, right? The middle register, oh no, sorry, the top one. Top right there, you can see the tree of life scene yet again. That should be becoming a very common theme by now, the tree of life scene. It's depicted everywhere in every culture and religion. We knew this. We depicted this everywhere. We knew how this worked. We were taught this. You just can't get away from that once you start looking into this. These tree of lives are going to pop up everywhere. And of course they're going to need new fuel, so the new fuel is generated. I'll be explaining a bit more about that process soon. And of course waste management again, which One Conscience will be talking about in a few moments. We've got some waste management to dispose of. So there has to be in the underworld processes and means of disposing of waste materials and places where the sun's going, and all these luminaries projectors go for a cleaning cycle. So you know there's clearly a maintenance going on there. But I'm going to pass you over to One for her take on this.
Hello. Okay, so today we're going to talk about energy. And we're going to relate it to the research that we do. So did you know the word energy from the Indo-European root is poti, meaning powerful, and from the Greek word energia means activity or operation, basically being at work. To fully grasp the workings of our world, one must understand the various kinds of energy. Every single event that occurs in this world is an energy transformation of a particular type. The sum total of energy in the world is constant. It's an infinite flow, and it manifests itself in various forms. These forms can undergo transformations. Energy can only be indirectly observed and measured as it manifests itself in these different forms. It can be further characterized through its observed properties. So, what kind of energies are there? Well, basically, they're all either kinetic or potential. Kinetic energy is due to movement. Potential energy is stored and waiting to happen. Now, these can be further broken down by the characteristics of the energy itself. So we have different kinds. We have mechanical, thermal, electrical, nuclear, sound, electromagnetic, chemical, light, and thoughts, just to name a few. So let's talk about carbon. Carbon is a chemical element, and it's a pretty common one. It's the 6th most common element in the world, and the 15th most common in our Earth's crust. Unlike a lot of other chemical elements, you can see some forms of carbon. Diamonds are one form of carbon. So science says that most of the carbon is deep in the earth. For once, I'll sort of agree with them. Amorphous carbon is a third form of carbon, and it's a lot harder to see since, unlike diamonds and graphite, it doesn't have a crystalline structure. It's commonly known as coal. So carbon is the building block for all life on Earth, and a good chunk of the total amount of it that's held in the Earth is living or dead organic molecules. So, how does this tie to volcanoes? Well, the carbon cycle comes from the volcanoes, from the process happening in the underworld. And eventually, after it comes to surface and cools, it becomes rock or mineral. It does become our new land. This is the creation process. Angel technologies below are what cause lava, the carbon, and the volcanoes. These are the vents of the underworld and the designed waste and recycle system. Through the creation system, what is needed gets used. What isn't needed or has fault is pushed to the waste holding tanks, or the magma chambers. When the basins get full, they release and a cleaning occurs. These are our eruptions. Some have a steady flow for long periods. So you have to kind of think of it that all these different tubes are leading to a certain spot, the basin, the holding tank. And if there's so many, it has to steady flow out. We can see this with Hawaii. So I took some time and outlined a whole lot of the tubes that indeed lead to Hawaii. And you can see why it had to have a steady flow. Somewhere along the line, it must have bottlenecked recently, and I think that led to the explosion, or old tubes that weren't used opened up. So then we do have our exploders, the ones that blow every time. They're usually high in silicon, and when they become full, they do blow. So when this cleanse happens, the lava comes up from the chamber through the lava tubes. These tubes appear to be constructed, as we can see here in these photos. There is little to no lava traces after the tube has cleared. So this tells me it's designed to push the waste up and out and clear the tube until the next cleaning cycle. These lava tube systems run for miles and miles and connect to grids on the underside. As we can see here, I've connected several of these systems. We speculate there must be shutoffs to these, so to speak. Something will shut off the flow, which allows the tubes to be cleared. The ancients knew this process very well, and they shared these processes with us. We used ancient Egyptian script to show one of the many processes that lead to the need to expel the waste. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over so we can get into how these conclusions came to by us. Thank you.
For a more technical breakdown of the process, I'm going to play some clips made by Roger from Mudfossil University, who has been experimenting with particle acceleration. So please don't copyright strike me, Roger. I'm one of the good guys, and I know this information will help you. You see, I agree. They are reinventing the wheel over and over, as I will demonstrate after these clips.
Okay, Roger from Mudfossil University today was discussing ether again, which I've been working on for years now, and we have photographed it in experiments and sent all that information off years ago to all the top universities, never heard a word. But all of a sudden they decide they have discovered ether. Now, I think this is kind of disgraceful, to be perfectly honest with you. Plato and all the rest of them back then knew about ether. according to the ancients, they spelled it ether or ether. It's also called the quintessence. Now, all of a sudden they decided, oh, we found the fifth element. Well, guess what, my friends? Fifth element was also in Plato's Timaeus. Speaking about air, Plato mentions there is a most translucent kind called the name ether. It's really very, very, very poor form. Now, everybody knows I've been working on ether and light and everything for years. I've been posting this. Nobody's been paying attention to it, really. I mean, very few. And so I got this from my friend today, Aaron. Physicists confirmed the discovery of a fifth force. Right? They're taking credit for discovering something that's been known for throughout history. Physicists confirmed discovery previously unknown. It's not previously unknown. The fifth fundamental force. This is really not right. Somebody should speak out against these people. They do this kind of stuff and take credit for things that they've dismissed, and then all of a sudden they decide that it's good again. I'm going to show you the real facts. This is ether right here. All these dots are ether. And the reason they are glowing like this is because it's in a darkened room and a laser pulse red laser light coming through here, which only has a tiny, tiny, tiny dot right in the center here. But when it comes through, it forces the opening of space around it and forces these regions to go into other people's regions. They glow at that point. All the molecules in space own a region. They're happy there. Once you start pushing something through that ocean of particles that are happy, they become disturbed. When they do that, they glow. All right, you saw that field coming through, and what it is there's a little dot in the center, and it's crushing through there just like it does with a sonic wave in a jet, breaking the sound barrier. Now, there's the particle beam. All right, that's all it is right there. That's the beam. That's what comes from this, and what causes this wave to open up is this beam. Well, all of a sudden it's saying, holy smokes, I'm being sucked in faster. You see that? That's accelerating. You can't tell me that's not accelerating. There's not a person on the face of this planet who can say, oh, that's nothing. No, that doesn't mean anything. Well, yes, it means something. It means that that thing is accelerating. And when it starts accelerating, it's being pulled faster because it's being forced through this venturi. They're piling up here and becoming excited because they can't get to here. They're forcing each other through here, and when they explode out the other side, which they have to accelerate, there is no option whatsoever. And the reason they're starting to accelerate here, to excite here, is because they're being impeded more and more and more and more. And then all of a sudden, by the time you get here, they are just being blocked almost completely. And forcing each other through here, it's a venturi, two rounded it's two actually construction nails, and that's only a construction red laser. Very inexpensive, less than $50. You do this whole thing. Do it at home. And I have other people doing it now. And I'm going to show you some fabulous shots I just got yesterday. We're looking into them right now. Very, very interesting. Now, what comes out of here is the particle beams that we all know about. Is these? They call that the what do you call it? The patterns that the double slit experiment, where they have the things on the back, the impedance or whatever they call it. I can't think of it. But anyway, all it is these are electrons coming out of here, forcing each other away from this side and that side. So you're seeing them get away, and by the time they come out here, they can sort of flip around all they want. But primarily, this is pushing this way, and this is pushing this way. They're both pushing both ways. So you end up with a beam in the center. That's why you see the real bright beam in the center. Now, and then you see these rays, because this is saying stay away from here, this guy's saying stay away from here, so they start to build up these arrays. Now, and that's called atomization, plasma, whatever you want to call it. But at this point, these electrons no longer own a region. Before, they owned their own region. They all had their own little dot that they owned. And they say, okay, this is my place. Don't anybody push me. And when they push me, I'm going to glow. And that's what's happening. And this right here shows you the ether. And that is, if anybody can explain to me how these little dots are formed after a light, which we saw accelerated. I don't care what anybody says, that was accelerated. It's coming out of here in white chaos. These little tiny fibers are coming out, which show where the particles are. Those are the particle trails. They are headed by these fields. Those fields are from polarized ether surrounding the tiny, tiny particle in the center, which is charged. It's negative. It's going faster than hell, smashing into the ether here, inducing a current around itself in a right-hand turn as it goes through space. And I have pictures of that too. And I have pictures of this showing this right here is a crushed field. You see that? You see the difference in this one here and this one here? These are round, this one. You see this crushing in here and this crushing in here? That's forcing that one to be more massive. It's crushing it. It's turned purple instead of the lower frequency color. This is a reverse spinning electron. No field around it. It's reverse spinning. They create, in the right-hand rule, electricity goes that way, it spins this way. Well, that one's going that way and spinning the other way around, and it's breaking its fingers off. So there's no magnetic field there. That is, and also that collided with something and made a very interesting result. And that's the result right there. That was that white particle. It transitioned into one of these somehow and bled off that. And this is what I told you. That's the spinning of the electron, the right-hand rule. As it goes flying out of the accelerator, you see how they're expanded here, and then they contract. These are less energetic. That's an extremely energetic one for some reason. It came through in a different orientation. The others, they were, whatever the difference is. This is much more energetic than these other ones. And you can see, because it's drifting to the left, it's probably spinning to the right, maybe spinning to the left, I don't know. But it's going to have one of these spins to it, and it's supposed to be spinning this way if it's going that way. And I believe, well, I know it's going this way. Now, and I believe it's spinning this way because it's drifting to the left. That would be the natural thing. It would here, and then it can't quite get to the same place each time. And that would give it that left drift. So, that's all I can see. It's a right-hand rule. And that's light spinning through a single slit, I believe that was. Again, this goes back years ago, so some of these pictures, well, I know all the pictures I'm talking about. That I can't remember. Single slit, double slit, I don't remember. And again, I don't know if I mentioned this. This is Rodney Warren from Australia, and I worked on this years ago, and these are his pictures, and they cannot be surpassed, I don't think. However, I'm going to show you one that I got yesterday that's got me interested. This is the plasma coming out of the accelerator. As it steps down, it presents this in two waves. I've seen this a number of times. It looks like a particle to me, and it looks like a torus, and I think I might have some idea how it's working with capacitive and inductive reactance somehow.
Okay, Roger mentioned Plato and others already knowing this information, and he is correct. In fact, my Nazca line work, geoglyph, petroglyph and hieroglyph research confirms this, as does sacred geometry and scriptures. Everyone knew these processes in those days. Your experiments are missing some vital components, Roger, but caution is advised when proceeding here on in. Here is what the Nazca lines have been teaching me. Okay, as you can see with this image, we have our square wave generator in the scene, other parts of technologies, and a very important piece of the line work, the right-hand rule. In this image you can see the square wave generator, the labyrinth, the particle accelerator, and even multi-level structures. Again, square wave generator, particle accelerator, high frequency injection. I hope you're seeing a pattern forming here. This repeats over and over across the Nazca lines. Very detailed technical information. Here's a frequency guide I found online, and I've added various geoglyphs to it to help you understand their meaning and purposes. Due to our research, I haven't as yet had time to give the Nazca lines the full attention and presentation they need, but hopefully over the videos we have made for you, you are now being looking at them with new eyes. The decoder's blueprints, technical and structural information detailing layers in the underworld. As you can see, I have arranged the sea life in the lower frequencies and the flying species in the higher frequencies. On the correct map there are also location markers for various technologies in the underworld that relate to the workings of our luminaries and otherworldly processes. The direction they face usually meaning the direction of the signal it may be transmitting to or receiving from. These are activations and deactivations and possibly other informations being transmitted, those signals we have shown you on the mimic map. The earthquakes are usually a sign some technologies came online. Now I mentioned proceeding with caution as this technology is also what is responsible for the arts and acts of creation, and a great many other things depending on the configuration. By design, this technology will manifest material before your very eyes, which Roger pointed out at the end of his video, those charged particles he noticed. Because Roger's setup seems to be missing some vital components, it is not up to its potential and could be considered safe, as there is no magnetized walls, wave or frequency injection, but it still achieved the right hand rule and produced visible matter. This doesn't seem to be radioactively charged. So what does radioactively charged mean? As you've seen with the Nazca lines, there is wave and frequency injection which produces different results. The technology in the underworld is obviously built to a much larger scale than humans can comprehend, as the likes of Enoch and Ezekiel struggle to describe, and as such will produce larger quantities of matter which they create during their running cycles, as the sun process shown in the 12 gates presentation demonstrated. It had to go through a cleaning cycle and a cycle of solar rejuvenation, ready for the next sunrise. This material is basically radioactive material or nuclear waste. This is also what we would call lava, and as one conscience mentioned, it is managed and ejected into our realm and becoming landmass or sand if ejected into water. This is part of the creation process. By design it creates, maintains and destroys. The heart of this part of the process is located at 0.0 on our grid. I'm going to let Santos Bonacci give this a breakdown of what you are looking at.
This is what is called Brahma. Yeah, the creator. This is Brahma. Brahma is associated with Abraham, Abraxas, abrasion, as I said before, abracadabra. This is the abracadabra of creation. This is Brahma. Brahma is also associated with the Ram. He is the creator. Vishnu is the preserver. Vishnu preserves all of this. And then Shiva, Satan, will destroy it. Well, I mean, he doesn't destroy it totally. He destroys it as in the preserver is the maintainer and the destroyer does the other maintaining. If you don't destroy, you can't, cycles will not continue. There's the creative half of the ecliptic, then there's the destructive half. That's how it works.
Some fantastic words and information from Santos there, who has been a great help to this research with his wealth of knowledge and information sharing. Between the observant Stan Smith, Santos and our research, we have concluded the halo projections in the sky which mainstream are calling sundogs are what Ptolemy termed epicycles, so in essence this research confirms Ptolemy's model as correct. So what are these halos? They are part of the projector system that is projecting our luminaries into the heavens. As above, so below pertains to this relationship. A physical model in the underworld and a projection in the heavens, with an invisible link between the two, which can be noticed by lightning and tornadoes, the rotating vortex field rising up to the invisible halo. But what is making the projection, you ask? Okay, I'm going to decode the Eye of Horus for you to show you how it works. The Eye of Horus is a particle accelerator which uses high frequency injection. The eye itself is a chamber with which you would place your hot created coals as told in scripture. The hot coals are the radioactive particles it creates and ejects from the eyes round about it, as described by Ezekiel. The snake depictions represent the created matter, or as in this image, your hot coals as requested, sir. This material is radioactively charged and contains the same potential amount of energy as the voltages used in the accelerator that created it. This is a power source, 100% over unity free energy with a very long lifespan. The cones you see depicted near the Tree of Life scenes are being radioactively charged and used as the power source for the vehicle the projector is attached to. I think, going by various scriptures, it is a vehicle of sorts that is moving the projector around in the underworld, the projection in the heavens mimicking its every move. This applies to all luminaries and their projectors, which obviously have different configurations and roles. Do we have any evidence of particle accelerators and radioactively charged materials to relate this to in the real world? Of course we do. I'm going to take you back to the 1800s and see what Mr. Tesla was working with in those times. If you go for this Freedom of Information release on Mr. Tesla, you will see that he was working on an accelerator that was given to him to look at, as it apparently had a side effect of producing ball lightning, which Mr. Tesla describes as being a very scary event, as usually it would explode with devastating effects. From these documents you will see that they have Mr. Tesla offering to sell and install particle accelerators for a fee of 25,000 UK pounds. The research was based on harnessing and trapping the materialized ball lightning, which could hold the same amount of energy as the system that produced it. Again, 100% over unity technology. The system can also project particles up to 100 miles or more with speeds around 350 miles per second. And Mr. Tesla stated he could build a death ray for the defence of Great Britain from air attack. The technology seemingly able to melt aircraft engines up to 250 miles away. What I did notice is that in these documents the wording also in Mr. Tesla's handwriting appears, with more work related to accelerators. Now when I look at CERN and think about these documents, CERN does not look like something Mr. Tesla could install, let alone have all the components for. So it seems to me this is misleading. It seems to me someone has inserted paperwork faked as Mr. Tesla's so they have a person to use for introducing more advanced technology into the world. Technology we can see originates from the underworld. So fear not, dear Tesla fans, he is innocent of any wrongdoing and seems to have been used by those that hide this as and when needed. Mr. Tesla did invent and make derivatives from his work with accelerators, which are still in use today. So our projections in the sky, we are either seeing the insides of the projection chamber and the effects of its contents, or harnessed and electromagnetically trapped ball lightning on a creator-sized scale, not the smaller scale observations mentioned in human experiments. As an aside, when some nuclear power plants explode, the roof seems to get blown off. Then the disaster has to be sealed, a sarcophagus created around the nuclear lava that is created to contain it. The seal of the 144,000 in scripture is this exact same process. The angel technology has been sealed below in the underworld, so that in the event of a catastrophe it is already sealed and contained, kept in a room until the great day of judgment some 1,000 years into the future. The sarcophagi under ancient temples and pyramids are location markers of said angel technologies below, glare glyphs telling their story to a now unseeing and unknowing world audience. And so it seems, at some point in our history, mankind had an event, a meeting with a higher knowledge, who introduced us to these very advanced technologies and created the components for our electromechanical realm that we call Earth. Our iniquities were removed and our sins forgiven. We were advanced scientifically and we developed into better civilized beings. Our sin was ignorance. We did not understand how anything worked from a scientific viewpoint, but this quickly changed as our ancestors have depicted everywhere.
Okay, so these are the two cruises that we looked into for trying to figure out what the heck they got going on for the Polynesian islands. So the first one is coming from New Zealand. So where the little boat is, that's where they start, and they follow the arrows up and around New Zealand. They stop along New Zealand. They then shoot across to Tasmania. They go up and visit the shores of Australia. They go up north of Australia. Then they come back over and they start heading out to the islands. They go out to Fiji and they go out to Tonga, and they head on out, heading east towards the East Gates. Now the black line is the international dateline split. So there's about 20 hours difference in some of these areas when you cross over the dateline. Now, when we go up to the other one, coming off of California, we start up here in Baja California. They shoot out to Hawaii. They do a roundabout all the Hawaiian islands. They then head out and go down the Line Islands. They end up Tusamotu, and then they hit a couple more islands and they head back to Baja California. So what they're doing is they are confusing people by visiting. All of these islands are out here, so there's so many. It would be so easy to hide and skew this data and tell people that maybe they're in one place when they're really not. These are separate sets of islands. If people go and look at the time and the times of these islands and what day they're on, it has a lot to tell there. You know, some of these islands are very, very close, but they've already went into Sunday, where some of them are sitting in Saturday, you know, mid-evening. So it's a clear split of the map. So, you know, that's telling me our map is right, that this is where it splits. These ones on New Zealand are going to be leading up into the East Gate, where we're never going to get. And the ones coming from California are coming down around by the West Gates. None of them are ever crossing over.
Okay, so the divides in the map. Our research reveals they are in these locations to hide the 12 gates. Further research of ours has revealed something very special and meaningful. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it gives us great pleasure to present to you the 12 pearly gates of heaven. The 12 gates in Revelation 20 long belong to the New Jerusalem, which comes down from heaven to the new earth, verse 10, shining with the glory of God, verse 11. John describes the city. It had a great high wall with 12 gates, and with 12 angels at the gates. On the gates were written the names of the 12 tribes of Israel, verse 12. The gates are miraculous in their construction. The 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of one single pearl, verse 21. And the gates of the New Jerusalem will never be shut, verse 25. The pearl was esteemed of the greatest value among the ancients. It is an appropriate emblem of the highest truth. It is the only precious stone which the art and skill of man cannot improve. Introducing the three gates in the north, the gate of Reuben, the gate of Judah, and the gate of Levi. Introducing the three gates in the east, the gate of Joseph, the gate of Benjamin, and the gate of Dan. Introducing the three gates in the south, the gate of Simeon, the gate of Issachar, the gate of Zebulun. And introducing the three gates in the west, the gate of Gad, the gate of Asher, and the gate of Naphtali. The gates of the New Jerusalem never close. They are eternal safety and peace in the New Jerusalem. There are no enemies to shut the gates against. Access to the heavenly kingdom on the new earth is free and unhindered, and the glory and honour of the nations will be brought into it. Revelation 21:26. The gates face every direction of the compass, and their perpetual openness invites everyone to partake of the goodness of God's grace. Revelation 22:17. Welcome to the realm. As you can see, people, our research is revealing a very intelligent creator who has created a realm which can only be described as a technological masterpiece, a construct beyond our comprehension, as our ancestors found and tried their best to describe. You will also notice we are decoding geoglyphs, petroglyphs and hieroglyphs. The reason for that is because they are telling the exact same story, the only difference being the descriptions of the angels, and this is due to their varying roles and different looks in different geographic locations. They are still part of the same mechanisms that give us our luminaries and a great many other things. A construct designed and maintained to the highest standard with the most ornate descriptions one can possibly imagine. We hope you enjoy our research and information, and that helps you see and recognize there is a creator, their glory being revealed in a way we did not expect to see, let alone find. We fully accept this and look upon our realm with new eyes and knowledge, a knowledge that seems to have been lost, yet is depicted everywhere in sacred geometry, scriptures, geoglyphs, petroglyphs and hieroglyphs. How did it come to be that we have forgotten all that was once known everywhere in our realm? I'll leave you with that thought, so until next time, it's goodbye from us. Now, so you can go and check your channel, Cats. It should be streaming now. I hope it's streaming to yours. I think I put your key in. We'll find out, but it should be streaming down to your channel. So if you want to drop Cats the link, drop them the link in APM, and they can all jump in and interact if they want, or we can, if anyone wants to come on the panel, tell them. We can pass them the link in the back chat.
I don't see it. Put it in the back chat so I can click on it, because I don't see it.
Put the watch page in the back chat, yeah, and then they can all click it.
Okay.
Is anyone in the stream yet? I can't see
Patrick,
the I can't see the chat.
Hello.
Mic check, everyone. Just to make sure we're streaming through okay. Hello, Patrick. I can't see the chat. Yeah, we're streaming.
I can't see it.
You have to get the link from the. Can you drop the link to the watch page in back chat one?
Yep. Let me get
I got it. I got it.
Okay.